everybody, and welcome to another weekly edition of Web3 Weekly. I am Crypto Kenny. Thank you for being here. Love y'all. Let's do some quick housekeeping. If you guys are not currently following Web3 Weekly, there is a follow button right down below. You can hit that. Throw on notifications, as we do put out sometimes some YouTube shorts on specific things going on in the market. You don't want to miss those things. So subscribe. And put the notifications on there to take advantage of that. Here at Web3 Weekly, we do weekly long content podcasts with interesting projects in the space, new and upcoming technology inside the NFT space. We also do once a month, we do a market update. It's going to be interesting doing our market update on this one here this month, the month of November, because it has been a crazy month so far, and we're just halfway through. We also do educational content from time to time. Today, I have with me today, and I'm super excited to get to know these guys. They are two of the team members of Naffles NFT project. Naffles is doing something very, very interesting in the space, and they're attacking a big problem that we've seen over the last 24 months in the NFT space. I'm not going to front run them, but it's going to be a super interesting discussion that we have today about, one of my personal favorite topics, which is the emergence of new NFT technology and utility. So you're going to want to hear this. Lastly, if you have not seen or been subscribed to Web3 Weekly and you haven't checked out any of our videos thus far, obviously watch this video through. When you get done with that, I would also recommend our previous episode, which was last week, which was with Worlds Beyond. They had a big launch about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, doing really well. We got an interview and some sneak peek footage of them beforehand, so that was a really cool project. We also, the very last video that we did was Scrapyard. I'll put a link up here. You can check them out. We were talking about gaming projects in the space. We touched on the development of games on mobile apps and how the bridging of Web2 gamers is going to really help the adoption in the space. We covered several topics, the marketing of games in this down market. So it was a very interesting segment. So definitely go back and check that. All right. So without further ado, I will introduce to you today Seth and Jay. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and what they do inside of Naffles, and then we will jump right into it. So Sam, Jay, thank you very much for being on the podcast. Let us know who you guys are, what you do inside the project, and let's talk about Naffles.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Really appreciate that. I just want to start off saying, as I said to you before, that you guys everyone who's listening here is and watching is early to Naffles. We're really just getting things going, and my job here is I'm just the sidekick to the CEO and the CTO, who's Jay. So I'm going to let him take the real intro here and sort of outline this project for you. But thrilled to talk to you, and I hope that we can provide some value to your listeners.
Hey there, thanks for the intro, Seth and Kenny. As Seth mentioned, so I'm the CEO and CTO of Naffles. It's a project we've been building for a while now, since October of last year, when all the NFT metal was really firing up. Naffles in essence is a NFT Raffle Marketplace, and it was built to allow a fair opportunity for anyone to get in on NFTs that they've been eyeing up and just couldn't afford. And at the same time, it allowed NFT owners or potentially bag holders to profit on NFTs in a way that's not linked to the floor price, and it allows them to disconnect the value of an NFT from the floor price.
Hey, Kenny. Oh, sorry, Jay. Kenny, when you started off there, you said the major problem in the NFT space right now. So what in your eyes is that?
Well, I think that well, there's quite a few problems in the NFT space now. We're obviously a super early developing market. I mean, we're only a few years old necessarily, but I think one of the biggest problems is the lack of liquidity in the space. I think that we are stuck to one option basically now, which is OpenSea. We've had competitors, but there's not really more options than that. Whenever anyone says a floor price, they mean whatever the OpenSea floor's price is. I think one of the other big problems is that we we measure NFT collections based off of these floor prices and rarity rankings, and it's very difficult to have options as far as how you can liquidate or purchase or monetize your NFTs. So that was what I was kind of referring to with you guys, because you guys really attack that in a very interesting way. And I think that's interesting. Now we'll talk a little bit more here a little further down the line about some other problems I personally think the NFT space has. I'm sure you guys could probably will probably chime in on that also. But I really like I think that the most interesting thing to me is that you guys are providing, or producing a platform right now that, I mean, to my understanding, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that you're allowing a individual to not only a seller to go on and choose how and at what price they want to offload their NFT, but you're also giving options to buyers that, a buyer that will, not be able in any reality to afford a large, blue chip NFT, the potential to buy, fractionalized tickets of that NFT and potentially pick up one for next, for just a very small amount. So I think that's really interesting, how you guys have set that up. And I've got quite a few questions for it, but I'll kind of fire these in sequence so we don't get too convoluted.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you nailed it. Obviously, liquidity problem right now, not only a matter of, being in the bear market, but also considering that, we're really trading high value NFTs amongst a very small group of people. So you're absolutely right. The idea of bringing in new users who don't have necessarily the equity to buy into these high profile projects will now have an opportunity to potentially win a way in for fractions of the costs that you do see on other marketplaces. So I'm glad that you saw that and brought that up.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a big point, because I don't think a lot of people think about it in NFT trading, because there's almost like tiers through the NFT market, right? Because you have these higher end blue chip NFTs, a dozen projects or so that really have almost the same user base, right? You have these people that can afford to drop, 40, 50, 60 ETH on these like these larger high end projects, and they're really just recycling funds, most of it, right? Like if you look at the Bored Ape Yacht Club holder list, I mean, besides for a few celebrities, I mean, those guys are just recycling the users, right? They sell, they buy, they sell, they buy, which is fine. I mean, it's an open market; things can be done, but there has to be some way to interject new users into these collections that they want to grow. And a lot of those have used the option of creating lower level collections and stuff like that. But let's be honest, I mean, like who's in the NFT space? I mean, it's probably 90% of collectors' dreams to be able to own a Bored Ape or a Mutant Ape or a Crypto Punk or a World of Women original, something like that. And it would be, I think it's really interesting that you guys are working on providing the option to where we can get some average everyday people holding these collections, and kind of like spice up the variety of holders in these collections. I think it's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, you nailed it. We're trying to do it in an inexpensive way for them, and also it has to be very easy to onboard those new users.
100%. And before we get into the first couple questions I wanted to ask you guys, I wanted to mention also it's very interesting, and one of the things that made me super interested in you guys is one of the projects that I've found at Alph Mutants, that we do something similar, not nearly on the level that you guys are doing, but with the same concept, right? So our concept was that we wanted to provide people that obviously don't have their normal ETH balance in their wallet is normally less than an ETH, right? Like they mint and they trade, and they're trying to do something in the space, but that's what it is. So we actually sponsor once a month. We do what we call a mega raffle, and we put up ticketing, like you guys do, to purchase tickets. And unlike just putting up an NFT, we actually take the gross from the tickets, and we purchase a couple blue chip NFTs and then raffle those off. So if someone buys like an $8 ticket to get in, and potentially from that one $8 ticket, they could win, a higher end NFT. So I like the philosophy behind that. I like the idea of giving people that are very active in the space, but that just don't have the liquidity yet, a chance to jump into some of these bigger projects. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, not only we want to bring people into new communities, but the other thing about this is we've all seen raffles, in our real lives, and these companies that are turning huge profits, raffling off vehicles, houses, that sort of thing. But the profits are going to the company, right? So the idea behind Naffles is not to be this company that's going to be taking all that profit for ourselves, but to put the profit back in the NFT holders' hands and the sellers' hands. So we're trying to provide that service for them, which is a bit of a different technique that we haven't seen so far.
Yes, for sure. And I think that's important because, one of the biggest problems we're seeing currently, and I mean, it's not a problem, it's a reflection of the market and the macro scene, but there's been decreasing liquidity in the NFT space for, months now, right? I mean, we're talking the last 12, 14 months, there's been decreasing liquidity in the space, and we've seen a lot of churn, right? Just a lot of people selling one project to buy another, to buy another, to buy another. So like the volumes on OpenSea are just, fractions of what they were, 12 months ago. So I think that we all, as projects, whether we're specifically in, the space that you guys are in, the niche that you guys are in or not, we all need to be thinking of ways of, how do we get new users onboarded? And how do we bring new money into the space, as opposed to just regurgitating the same money over and over again, right? And I think there's a lot of ways to attack that, but I think that what you guys are doing is a very interesting way to attack that. So that kind of leads into my first question, which is, can you guys give me tell me how long you've been working on development of Naffles, and like how the idea for the project really came to be in the first place? Like where was the conception, and when did that happen?
Sure. I'll take this one. I guess I've been in the NFT space probably just over a year, like a lot of people. Yeah, right. It was really quite popular mid last year, going in towards the end of the year. I was lucky enough to mint myself into Neo Tokyo as well. The access that we got through there was just insane. There was white lists all over the place, and you start getting into the hype of all these NFTs. You're all these projects, and you start thinking, most of these are going to be long-term holds, and they're all going to be moonshots. So you buy in, and you watch these prices just rocket, right? You've got multiples of your mid price, and you get a bit excited, and you tell yourself, you're going to take profit soon, right? You're going to do it. And by the time you kind of convince yourself to do it, the floor prices started dropping, and then there's just a mad rush to all these people undercutting each other, and just the floor price starts plummeting, right? And usually I'm sitting there, kind of with my face in my hand, realizing that I've missed the top, and you start convincing yourself that look, I'm in it for the art, or I'm in it for technology, or it's a long-term hold. It's going to come good. But honestly, I'm dying a little bit inside at how silly I've been, right? And you end up being a bit of a bag holder. And it's happened a few times, and to the point where I started thinking that there's a lot of these projects, that they do have a lot more value than what their floor price reflects. And for me, I was trying to figure out a way that you could literally disconnect the floor price from the value of the project. What people think the thing is worth, whether on a long-term basis, or some utility, or whatever they can get out of it, right? And there just wasn't like a clear model for doing that. But then I kind of stumbled on, well, I kind of just remembered this model that I'd seen around, and it's the, yeah, like if you're traveling, you know, go through airports, and a lot of shopping centers happen as well. But you know, the supercar, the supercars that you see in airports where they're selling tickets, the raffle tickets.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, those are big businesses that are doing that. You know, they'll buy these these supercars for, you know, a few $100,000, but they'll sell millions in tickets, right? Before they run the raffles. And I just thought, yeah, that was kind of like bulb moment. I was like, well, why can't we do that with NFTs? And to be honest, people were already doing it with NFTs, right? But they were running the auctions for them, the raffles for themselves. But
Hmm.
for me, it was about, you know, why can't we just make this available to everyone? It, you know, I could see myself using something like that on both sides of the equation, right? So where, you know, I'd be able to win a board ape, or, you know, if I've got some of my bags, I could probably offload them for more than the floor price. The people who still wanted to get in, they just didn't want to, you know, they just didn't want to pay the current price that it was worth, and definitely not the top that I'd already missed, right?
Yep.
So that was kind of, that was the concept of how Naffles came about. Um, and then, you know, I just kind of started looking around, doing a bit of research, and started, you know, figuring out how I was going to build it. And so that kind of all came about towards the end of October last year, when all of it started coming together.
That's awesome,
Um,
man. And I think that, you know, your thought process on that is cool because you guys took, like you said, when you thought about it, you're like, you know, there's other projects doing this because, you know, that, like, you know, Alpha Mutants and a half dozen other projects, we run, you know, like private raffles for our communities and stuff like that, right? And I mean, and we even go further to where we have an external communications channel where we offer it to some other communities, but that's like a super small scale. So I think you took a good idea and kind of refined it and put it on a much larger scale, which I find super interesting. And you're absolutely right. You know, it's this space is so unforgiving for people that don't have education in traditional investing, because, you know, the whole focal point of most of the communities that I'm in, and both the communities I've helped found is around that entire fact. It's like, you know, 99.9% of the NFT space right now is these speculators that have probably never invested in anything in their lives, and they're coming into this because it's cool, it's hip, it's a new technology, you know, it's fun. But yeah, so many people get burned at the end of these bear markets. You know, I've been in crypto, been aware of crypto since 2012. Really got heavily into it and opened up my investment firm in late 2016 or early 2017. So I mean, I've been through many bear markets. So, you know, it's almost crazy how the euphoria sets in for some of these things, and people get stuck holding bags, right? Like, even the people that follow me, and I have a decent following. And, you know, I was telling people in November last year, I sold out all of my NFT bags in November. Like, even projects I love. You know, I've sold, no offense to you guys, but I sold three citizens and two outer citizens. I sold everything. Everything I had. Cool cats. I got a cool cat hoodie on right now. I sold out all my cool cat. I mean, everything. Because, you know, you get to that level of euphoria, and it's just like, you know, there's only downside to this. But the problem is that there's a big disconnect between, you know, people like myself that have been in the crypto space 8 years, have been in investments over a decade. We've seen this with other products. We've seen this with, you know, with stocks and futures prices, and you know, then just regular crypto and ICOs and all these types of things. The average person comes in, and they got in, you know, 2021 or early 2022, and they just don't have any kind of understanding of this. And I think that that's awful, because if you give people their first experience with this technology that is NFTs a bad experience, then you've lost that person for probably ever, right? So I think that having options to where, like what you guys are providing, is a really good a really good kind of like go between as people are learning to be solid investors and investing in projects they believe in and these type of things. I think it's a really, really good option. Because I would love to some of the people that even in my community that have been, you know, stuck without liquidity, holding bags on things, and be like, hey man, I mean, have you tried out Naffles? They give this other option. So I think that's really cool. And I think there's a big potential for what you guys are doing. You know, it's interesting in the market that we're in. Well, let's move on to the next question then, because this kind of goes into it. So we talked about how Naffles is helping to solve like the liquidity problems, and they're giving options to collectors and users that normally wouldn't have those options, as far as like, you know, listing and selling and getting a higher amount and not being like bound by floors. But tell me, so what's the with the market we're in right now? Obviously we know volumes are down on everything. We got red candles every day. We got exchanges, you know, going insolvent. We've got investment firms going insolvent. I mean, everything's crashing and burning. It's been we're out of Goblin Town and we're into like the ghetto of Goblin Town, right? Like it's getting bad. So what is Naffle's strategy over the next, you know, 12, 18 months that we're more than likely going to have of this really choppy, you know, kind of like lack of liquidity time frame in the crypto space? Like, what is your guys' plan over that time frame, and what do you look to accomplish, and how do you plan on surviving this when there's so many projects and so many other protocols just collapsing all around us?
So, I mean, the first thing is, I mean, right now, we're obviously getting towards, you know, pretty fair times for NFT floor prices right now. I mean, a lot of that is because of constant undercutting, people trying to exit. And one of the things I wanted to bring up, it's not only about the undercutting that is a bit of a problem, but the other thing, a problem that I've seen is what I'm calling the dead zone. You know, the mid rarity tier NFTs that you just can't move because you don't want to list them at the floor. They're not in the top 100, so they're not moving. So this is another opportunity to kind of highlight those NFTs and price them the way you want, because when you're listing, you choose the number of tickets and the price that your ultimate price that you're targeting. And so you can obviously disconnect from the floor price there a little bit. But in response to your question, right? So the idea behind Naffles is trying to make it as inexpensive and as easy as possible, and riding a few of the upcoming waves, in particular L2 wave. So, you know, as you may know, that Naffles is going to be operating on ZK Sync L2. But it's also done seamlessly. So I'm sure many of your listeners and viewers have gone through the process of looking for an airdrop from ZK Sync and gone through the testnet and the bridging.
Yep.
So the users on Naffles won't need to do that. You're not going to need to bridge ETH manually over to L2. It'll be all done in the background. So in addition to that, we're going to be expanding to try and capture some foreign markets as well. Now that's going to come a little bit later on down the road through language support, because as you may know, there's a few markets right now where NFTs are not in a bear market, where they're actually booming. In particular, Japan right now is one of those that's particularly interesting. And also, you know, you've seen what's been going on with Reddit. That's another area of, so we need to try and capture these users and try to bring them in a fun, exciting way that's been gamified, rather than just constantly recycling in this tiny crypto Twitter NFT space that we're currently in. So it's about gamification, ease of access, and onboarding a much wider net than what we're currently trying to use.
One of our core strategies as well is to partner and collab with as many of the major projects in the space as well. And yeah, the intent here is that, you know, we are bringing on communities that are experienced with NFTs, and particularly the project holders, right? So, you know, as we onboard these project holders to run their raffles, you know, like communities such as yourselves and other alpha groups and other you know, major projects like Ape List and Neo Tokyo, and that have high value NFTs. You know, as they come on and they run their raffles, the benefit is they bring their communities and their associated fans with them. And while they're on our platform, accessing their own raffles, they then have access to all the other raffles that we've got on the platform as well. So that's kind of the initial strategy, from which we're going to be growing out from, knowing that people from those communities already have exposure to NFTs, have that familiarity, are probably fairly degenerate in their affiliations as well. So would be more accepting of platforms such as ours, particularly in the early days. And then we start growing out from there, to start onboarding those wider communities, start targeting the gamblers, people who in the crypto space, because even though crypto in general is seeing a bit of a downturn, or a lot of a downturn, but the gambling space is still booming, right? People are still gambling in crypto. Just because the market's down doesn't mean players aren't still playing.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I like, so I like that, because I think that it creates. I always think when I hear about a project and what their core what their core function is and what they're trying to do, one of the things I like to do is kind of like outside the box think, and just kind of think of what particular instances and problems does this particular platform give me access to kind of bypass, or not have to worry about as much. And I was thinking last night as I was looking through your guys' stuff that if you can get anywhere near any type of halfway adoption with what you guys are doing, it presents a lot of great options, and fixes several problems. So for example, one of the ones I was thinking about was when you do mint new collections currently, and there is a time frame between mint and reveal, there's this big issue where it's like a mentor can either be a full degen and want to flip everything, or they can be somebody that's like, well, I got to mint 3 or 4 of these. I'd like to try to recoup some of my initial money. I'd like to keep some, whatever. But in those situations, those investors and mentors, they're faced with a problem. The problem is that if they decide to sell right after a mint, they have a higher chance of ROI, but they're also blowing away the chance to see if they get any types of really good rarities or anything like that. And I cannot tell you how many times you hear stories about people selling to try to break even, and then they sold like a top 1% rarity on a collection or something, and they lost the potential for tons of profit. And I think it's interesting with you guys, because it makes people, if they're utilizing your platform, it would make people a little more comfortable holding until reveal, seeing what they have, because they still have the option of getting some recoup of their initial funds on platforms like Naffles, right? So I think that's a really kind of a niche thing, but it's always nice to even a smaller problem or a niche problem to find something that can potentially take care of that. So I think it's really interesting, and I'm excited. I'll tell you, I'm a contrarian in the space. I don't. If you talk to any of my team or anyone that's actively involved with me, they'll tell you that I don't fall in love with basically anything. I'm here to make money, and I'm here to be involved with projects that are building, right? So I hold projects that are really, builders in my opinion. As a longer term investment, I don't hold projects because I like, I fall in love with my PFP or a certain utility if it's not actually useful to me. But when I looked over your guys' stuff, I was like, fuck yes, I would mint that, right? I would mint to get access to what you guys are doing, because it has so much use case for everything else. It's like I know quite a few traders that the only NFTs they hold are things with like major use case access like that, like Sensei or a pre-mint pass, or these things that have massive utility and they pay for themselves. And I kind of see your guys's project in that light, that it holds a massive utility, barring that you guys get any type of adoption. And it's one of those things where you just buy it and you hold it and you never really think about selling it, because it gives you this access, right? So I think that's a good place to be, especially in a recovering market, is to be the NFT collection that when people ask you, what's the value of holding this, your response just can't be, well, we got a great community, or we have a cool looking PFP, right? It's that people understand what the value is because you're providing a really unique platform that solves a lot of problems, right? So I think that's really cool. If you guys want to respond to any of that, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you nailed it. So I think the one thing we haven't made clear is that you obviously scaling is going to be the issue here, and that is going to take time. So we have a plan to engage broader markets than just crypto Twitter. But the other thing to think about here is that yes, we've created this platform to help people profit and list NFTs with a fully customizable raffle. But in the initial phases, that ability is going to be limited to holders of one of our founders' passes, right? So you're absolutely right. So this NFT that we're selling, it's only going to be 300 NFTs, and you will require one of those to be able to create a raffle. Now, anyone's going to be able to come on and be what we're calling a player and participate in raffles and purchase tickets and still reap some other rewards and enjoy the gamification aspects. But if you want to be one of the few that's actually able to list on the platform to move your NFTs, you will require one of our founders' keys initially. At some point, that will be opened up, and the benefits to holders will be changed a little bit. There still will be many benefits for them, but you're absolutely right. So, in order to control scaling and quality of the Naffles that are listed on the platform, you will need to be a holder of one of those founders' keys.
Yeah. So that brings me to my next question. So how do I get myself and my project's treasury whitelisted for these keys? Because I want them already. Like, I don't care if they're 6 months, 8 months, 10 months down the road. I want on that list. So we'll have to talk about that in back rooms. You guys let me know what I got to do to get involved with that, because I also see the use case for active treasuries, right? So for one of the projects I work with, we have really active treasury, right? Like, we work with other projects, we help launch projects. So a lot of times we get like valuable NFTs donated to our treasury. We get, these type of things going on. So we're holding dozens of NFTs. And some of those we hold for the utilities or whatever, but some of them it'd be nice to liquidate, get more funds for the treasury, moving forward, and things like that. So I see like a huge use case even for like project treasuries, for your guys' pass. So it's really interesting when you sit down and actually think of the multiple use cases of the potential of what you guys got going on. So it's very interesting.
You got it, because treasuries and DAOs are absolutely ideal holders, because when we get going and the scaling is adequate, this should be a rinse and repeat procedure where you can purchase new NFTs and continue to list them, purchase some of the most desirable NFTs, and continually, repeat that process. Would you like me to discuss the application process, or perhaps the benefits of holding one of these NFTs and the plan for those NFTs?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So, I mean, the NFT right now, the purpose behind this initial mint of only 300 of what we're calling, the founders' keys, we're calling them, the name is Omnipotent. The purpose behind it is to do a small capital raise to conduct third-party security audits, because the one thing we set out here, we absolutely wanted a secure protocol for everybody. And that required not only internal audits, but some fairly pricey third-party audits. So that's one of the main reasons that we're running this initial mint. But also, we wanted to have a healthy, reliable population of 300 that we could trust the users that are listing these NFTs. We will implementing quality control measures as well, but to have a trustworthy population that's using the program to help us scale up is important. We're also selecting people that can help facilitate growth. So we have had many applicants for the founders' keys, and we're trying to leverage some of those individuals, or will be shortly, to expand our exposure to their communities. So we have a number of founders, a number of high-profile individuals on social media. We've had many devs that have applied and are currently employing some of them. We've had some individuals with legal experience that we're also utilizing. So right now, the people that we're looking for are those that can contribute to the project in a number of ways, whether it's artists, whether it's those who have treasuries that can list NFTs, whether you're an influencer that would be interested in helping us broaden our community base. So there's plenty of opportunities to enter if you have a skill that you may be able to participate in some way in the launch of the product.
We kind of see this 300 as a 300-member extension of our team, effectively.
That's fantastic, guys. And I mean, I think that's an awesome setup. I really do. I've seen, now in the space, yeah, and we see this because Alpha Mutants is obviously a launch pad, so we're constantly launching. It's a variety, right? So we're talking to projects as high end as like world brands and stuff like that coming in, and we help them with some things. But then we talked to I was on a call the other day with a 17-year-old kid that was launching a project, right? So there are variations in those things, and I make that point to say that right now during this low liquidity time, everyone doesn't have the, and even projects that don't want to spend these massive amounts of money on bringing all these people in. So I think what you guys are doing, providing that kind of like that kind of like equity in the project in return for some of these services, I think it's good business. I think it's smart business, and I've been in the traditional markets for well over a decade, 13, 14 years now, and my mentor in the markets always told me that anything that you could gain from relationships was money in the bank, right? And I think that's what you guys are doing, is providing that option to get in. So that's amazing. I love the strategy.
Yeah, so these keys, all right, so we talked about exclusive access is what you're going to get, right? So if you have one of these keys, you're going to be able to participate in the platform. In addition to that, we're going to have a allocation in the future that will be something that will be described a little bit later. Can't really get into that right now too much. We've also have a plan to issue free raffle entries for the users that are NFT holders. When eventually the platform is scaled sufficiently to allow a greater number of people to list, those who still hold NFTs will have substantial platform fee discounts, and probably will have some additional holder-only raffles that will be provided as well.
That's
and
fantastic.
right now, the only way to participate is to either introduce yourself within the Discord and become active and discuss the project and what you may be able to bring to it to help the launch. And also we do have an application process as well. We're currently at 2/3 full out of so we selected 200 out of our 300 available spots. We've received somewhere a couple thousand applications, and we're going through each of them by hand, so it does take a little bit of time, but we are essentially are still early. We haven't really started marketing this aside from providing applications to our collab partners and collab communities thus far.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously with that size collection, I don't think marketing is going to be I mean, you guys could have that whitelisted out 10,000 fold, instantly. I think it's more like just that the platform itself, the use case that you guys have to focus on that. So you're giving me a little bit of FOMO, man. Like, and I don't have that often. I even passed up minting pre-mint passes because I just didn't see enough utility in them. But yeah, so yeah, I actually just pulled up your application process. You guys be watching for Crypto Kenny, because I'm going to fill that out as soon as we get done with this interview. So hopefully I can make the cut. But so let's talk, because we're getting down to about 15 minutes left here, and I want to get a couple more of these questions out. So I always like to ask founders, not only because it's almost dangerous sometimes to be one-sided, right? To be just looking at your own project. Sometimes you got to come up for air and kind of look at the overall space. So I always ask this to each of the founders I get on here. So what currently excites you about the NFT space and the technological development, whether that be like a project or two that you're interested in, or a new tech or something that you're interested in, or just an all-encompassing meta that you see or that you see coming? And then, so I'd like to get that from each of you, and I'd like to also know what you think outside of what we've discussed about what you guys are kind of attacking as a problem in the space. Do you see any other problems inside the NFT space that you feel is another area that needs some development in? I think that's always interesting to get the perspectives of other founders on those topics.
Sure, hop in this one. So just the first question that you're asking in terms of what excites me. I think it's just the whole NFT space at the moment. I mean, despite everything that's happened over the last year, particularly, I know NFT's been around for a while longer than that, but it's still really, really early in NFTs. And we see this from you know, all the, it's just, you know, so many new metas coming out all the time, you know, from where we were last year through to, you know, this whole free NFT meta, and then and who knows what else is coming ahead, right? But just there's so much stuff going on that it is still a wild west. And that's where the opportunity is, right? And that's where we see, you know, for the fact that something, you know, now that we look back at it, you know, it's something as simple as Naffles, right? It's just NFT raffles. The fact that, you know, we're one of the first ones to be doing this, and to be doing it in such a way that it, you know, makes sense, that it's fair, that it's transparent in everything that we do. You know, why hasn't this been done before? And it's because we're so early in the space, and that's what I find is exciting about particularly the NFT space at the moment.
Fantastic. So what about another issue? Like what do you think the biggest issue is in the NFT space currently?
I think the roadmaps that we have all seen 1,000 times now, which consist of mint one, second mint, marketplace, merch, all done, right? It's just becoming a cycle that needs to change. And I think we're starting to see that happening as we're seeing many new market entrants. Yes, the existing market that we're seeing, things floating around crypto Twitter and OpenSea, existing projects, yeah, they're cycling down. But with what's going on in Japan, with what's just happened on Reddit, those are new communities that are just getting in. And as we start to see more and more gaming projects finally showing some interest in NFTs, I think there is going to be a very different but very significant future for NFTs. And I'm glad that with Naffles, it doesn't matter what type of NFT it is, whether it's a PFP or it's a package of 1,000 gaming units of NFTs, whatever that's going to look like, we can move those, you know, and follow the market wherever it goes.
And okay, so there's two things you said there that I find super interesting. So number one is that, you know, you mentioned like there at the very end, like packets of NFTs. So I'm sitting here and with you guys, I'm like thinking like, you know, obviously NFTs are what you guys are, you know, coming up, individual NFTs to go off, but there's so many other potential progressions of that, you know, like you guys could really have development over that concept for the next, you know, 5-10 years, right? Because you're looking at individual NFTs, groups of NFTs that have utility use case together. I mean, you could even go as far as like NFT project packages during a bear market that could all be like under the same raffle concept on that platform. I mean, it's just it's massive to me. It has a user base to the single NFT investor. It has a potential for you know, people trying to become founders or get certain assets to get into certain projects. I mean, I just think it's exciting. Like it's exciting. I wish my co-founder was on here because he never sees me excited about NFT projects. But you guys, what you guys are doing excites me. It really does. I think it has huge upside potential. I think that it's like most projects, it's going to be a long haul getting there. But the other point that you made, which I think is very interesting, and it was the concept that I was most stoic on when we launched our project, was that, you know, we needed to have a working product before we went to, you know, ask people for money, right? Because the meta in 2021, you know, or late 2020 and 2021 was, you know, we give you a list of promises, you give us a fuck ton of money, and then we might, you know, do those things, or we might not, right? Like that was how NFTs started in the boom during the bear market. And I think that has given some distaste to the entire space, right? Because that's not how anything works. It's not reality, and we should have known it wasn't reality last year. You know, because the reality of the situation is an NFT project is a business, right? Whether it's a you know, PFP project or a utility project or a protocol, they're all businesses, right? On some scale or another, some smaller than others, some larger than others, but they weren't being run like businesses. They were being run like GoFundMe's, right? Um, which we know in the traditional, investing world is just a recipe for disaster. So I think that projects like you guys, because you guys are actively developing, now you're not, overly worried about like, the time frame. You want to get the product together. You guys are doing the audits that you need to do and getting that stuff done. I think that's telling, because if this was, 18 months ago, you might have had a project similar to yours come out and be like, hey guys, we don't have anything yet, but this is the cool idea that we have. Give us a bunch of money and we'll make this idea happen. But you guys are attacking it from a very ethical, standpoint, and you're working on an actual usable project before you go out there and get tons of money. You guys aren't even asking for tons of money up front with your first collection. You're just covering your cost basis and everything. So it's things like that that make me want to invest. And I think it's what makes most of the smart investors want to invest, because they see ethical practices inside of a space that has for the largest part been labeled as kind of unethical, because cash grabbing and stuff like that. And I think it's projects like what you guys are doing, like personally what we're doing at Alph Mutants, to kind of change the concept of what an NFT project is, that it is a business run on Web3. And I think that needs to be the description. So, kudos to you guys. I can't give you enough props for that, because there's a lot of people in a lot of different situations that would have played what you guys are doing much differently. So,
yeah, I mean, I wish we were able to launch the product before mint, but I mean, those security audits and then the gaming license that is planned need to be executed before we're comfortable having people engage with the platform, right? So I agree with you, having a functional product and then asking people for investment and interest. That's the way forward for sure.
100%. So we're coming down to probably the last 5 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes, guys. So I wish I could sit and talk to you guys for a while. Actually, I think we're about done with scheduling you guys for an AMA in our Discord, I believe, if my secretary has kept me up to date properly, which is going to be very interesting. So we can get some specific questions and stuff out, which I think that'll be super fun. But the last thing I always want to say is, obviously anyone out there listening, or watching the YouTube, or if you're listening on one of our other podcast platforms, there will be a description of this podcast. In that description, I'm going to post links to Naffles and what they're doing. So those links are going to include their social media accounts. They're going to include their application, their light paper website, their Twitter, Discord, all that stuff. So, you guys know I say this every single time. The one thing, the biggest thing you can do to support a project, if you like the founders, if you like these guys, you think they've been transparent, they've been, they're doing this ethically, and that they have a really great idea that's going to help the space grow. Even if you don't have funds to put into, a mint or anything of that nature, the best thing you can do is join their Discord. Get on their social medias, retweet their stuff, get them out there, help them with some marketing. And that itself is a super, super big help. And I know that any founder out there would just, echo that and say that's something that you can do for absolutely free. So please do that. That'll be in the description. And closing out, I think I would like you guys to tell me, individually from you, what's the best way that someone can get involved if they want to, get involved with Naffles itself? What's the best way that they can get involved with that? And then, any closing statements. If you guys have anything particular that you want the viewers to know or direct them to, please go ahead and do that. I'll give you guys a couple minutes apiece to do that, and then we'll close everything out.
Sure. I just want to mention one thing too. One thing that we didn't do today, which we probably could have, is it's hard to kind of visualize what this is going to look like. So I did want to mention that on the website, there is a little video to give you any idea of what the user interface is going to look like. You can see what creating a raffle would look like and what buying a ticket would look like. It's a very clean interface. So have a peek at that. In terms of getting involved, I mean, right now with such a limited number of spots that we are trying to fill, it's going to be, we're really trying to identify those that do have a strong conviction and those that are interested in engaging with the platform early and actually using it. So there's no grinding for whitelist. There's nothing like that you're able to do. But if you are able to come in the Discord and say, hey, this is an interesting idea, I think that I would be a user that would be a benefit to the platform to engage with an alpha and beta phase, and why, and and what you could help to propel the project, then we would be happy to entertain that application, or just discuss with you in Discord and go from there.
Fantastic. Well, let's do this here too. So since we're here, let's go ahead and share this video since we're here, because it's a short video. I'll let everybody see it. We'll take them some of the time. You guys having to look it up, but because I actually watched it this morning, I think it's real informational. So let's go ahead and play that for the viewers real quick before we get done here.
There's normally sound with this.
So anyone's got any skills in UI, UX, anything like that, as we proceed into alpha and beta phase, that's always useful. Individuals who are engaged with foreign NFT markets, those are going to be a huge asset. Those that are able to have some connections to Reddit, TikTok Spaces, anyone in those areas, that can help us capture that new user base that we're looking for, would be a huge help, and happy to have them on board.
Fantastic. And I will still make one more thing before Jay has his closing statements here. I think that I like your user interface. I'm a big proponent of keep it simple and clean and just user friendly. And it looks like that's where you guys are headed. Obviously, it's not the final product, but it looks great. It looks fantastic. So kudos to you guys. So Jay, you can go ahead and throw out your closing statements here, and we'll wrap everything up.
Sure, man. Yeah, look, I think both you and Seth nailed it in terms of how people can get involved. It's just trying to be part of the community. If they can help us market, if they can, as I said, it's not about grinding, but it's just about trying to help us out, showing how you can bring some value to our community. Show that you're going to use the NFTs. And show that conviction that if you are going to be a holder, then you're going to use the platform, and you can see the opportunities and the vision that we see. We've got a bit of a strap line, which is where there's a raffle, there's a Naffle, and that's where that's kind of the core of what we're going to do, and our expansion revolves around that. Anything theoretically to do with a digital asset and a raffle, Naffles is going to be in that space.
Fantastic, guys. Well, in closing out, thank you guys so much for being on. I appreciate you guys taking the time. I know founders and team members, in this building time of the space, it's sometimes hard to get the time to do it. So I appreciate you guys giving an hour of your time away today to be on the podcast, to get information out to our listeners and users. Really looking forward to having you guys on an AMA in our Discord, whoever the team that's going to attend that. In closing, guys, once again, remind you, if you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. Follow all of the links below. Even if you can't get involved yet with Naffles, obviously it's a good idea to get into their Discord, because you're going to be able to get tickets for these higher end NFTs. You want to take advantage of that, know when that's going to launch and the updates and everything. So jump in and do that. Appreciate the time, guys. We will be back again next week. And then until then, I'm Crypto Kenny. This is Web3 Weekly. Let's go make that crypto money, build that crypto universe. Later on, guys.
Thanks, Kenny.